Okay, let's just jump right in with a question that honestly sounds like a meme itself. Can staring at funny pictures on the internet actually make you smarter? I know, it sounds a little crazy, but what if? What if the answer is yes?
All right, let's narrow that down a bit. I mean, could you really just scroll your way to a passing grade? Could the secret to acing that super tough final be creating the perfect meme about supply and demand? Is that even possible? Well, for a group of university students over in Madrid, this wasn't some hypothetical thought experiment. No, this was a real study with their actual grades on the line. And they were doing it in a course that was, let's just say, notoriously difficult.
So, to really get why they would even try something this out there, you gotta understand the mountain they were trying to climb. This wasn't just some random elective. This course was basically the final boss. Okay, so this course, Microeconomics I at the Universidad Europea de Madrid, it was what you'd call a gatekeeper course. We're talking seriously high, persistent failure rates. It had this reputation that just created a culture of fear. Students were walking into the classroom already anxious, totally unmotivated, basically convinced they were going to fail before they even started. So yeah, the professors knew they needed to do something radical to break that cycle.
And their solution? Well, it was completely unexpected. They decided to fight the fear of economic theory with, you guessed it, the internet's favorite weapon, memes. They called it the Microeconomics Memes Championship, the MMC for short. It was this totally voluntary tournament. The deal was students could earn extra credit if they created their own original memes about the course material. The whole idea was to take these super dense, kind of abstract concepts and, well, translate them into something funny, relatable, and, shareable. And look, this was a full-on, serious competition. First, students had to create a whole portfolio of memes covering all the different topics. Then the professors would actually check them, to make sure they were original and, more importantly, conceptually accurate. And then the teams had to present their memes in these knockout rounds, defending their creations in front of everyone, their classmates, the professors, who would all vote on the winners. Pretty intense, right? So you're probably wondering, what in the world does a microeconomics meme even look like? Well, think about it. You know that frustration of trying to be as happy as possible when you're on a super tight budget? Boom, that's consumer theory. Or that headache you get trying to figure out the difference between marginal cost and average cost? That's Fern theory. The students took those exact feelings and turned them into jokes. It proved they didn't just memorize a definition, they actually understood the idea behind it. But this whole thing wasn't just for fun and games. The researchers behind it needed to know, did this crazy, unconventional method actually work? It was time to crunch the numbers. And I mean, they used some serious statistical models here. They were controlling for all sorts of things, like a student's past math grades or which class they were in. They wanted to isolate just one thing, one single factor. Did the act of making the memes have a real, measurable impact on their final exam score? And the results? Well, they were shocking, but probably not for the reason you're thinking. Okay, so the first surprise was just how few students actually did it. Get this, out of 117 students in the course, only 13 even signed up. And of those, only 7 completed the whole challenge. I mean, at first glance, that looks like a total bust, right? So that's the big question, isn't it? With such a tiny group of students, could this experiment possibly show any kind of meaningful result? Or was it all just a quirky little side project that didn't really change anything? And the answer to that question is dramatic. Just look at this chart. You see those 4 big groups? In each one, the students who didn't do the challenge are clustered over on the left, kind of down at the bottom with lower grades. But now, look at those tiny boxes on the far right of each group. Those are the students who completed the meme challenge, and they are consistently way, way up at the top. They were just passing. They were absolutely crushing it. Let's put some hard numbers to that. The average score for students who didn't participate? A dismal 3.1 out of 10. That's a definite fail. But the model predicted that a student who finished the meme challenge would score a 6.4 out of 10. Think about that. The impact of making memes was, quite literally, the difference between failing the class and passing it. And here's something else that's super interesting. Who was drawn to this challenge? It wasn't necessarily the top math students. If you look here on the left, you can see their math grades were kind of all over the place. Some had even struggled. But now, look at the chart on the right. This one tracks their grades in a different class, History of Economic Thought. And here, the students who signed up were the ones who did really well. This tells us it appealed to students with strong conceptual and interpretive skills, not just the number crunchers.
So this just begs the question, right? Why did this work so well? What's the secret ingredient here that turns making memes into such a powerful way to learn? Well, let's hear from the students themselves. The feedback they gave was just overwhelmingly positive. They said it totally boosted their motivation, and this part is key. They said they had to review the concepts in greater depth just to be able to come up with a good meme. It's no surprise they pretty much all recommended it for future classes.
The researchers really hit the nail on the head with their conclusion. They said that making a meme forces a student to go way beyond just memorizing something. You have to synthesize information, you have to translate it, you have to connect different ideas. It makes you an active agent of knowledge, not just a passive sponge.
And really, that's the whole secret, isn't it? You simply can't make a genuinely good, funny meme about something like indifference curves unless you understand it on a really deep personal level. You're forced to break the idea down to its absolute core and then build it back up into something new and creative. That process, that's where the real sticky learning happens.
So, let's zoom now. What does this one quirky little experiment in a classroom in Madrid actually mean for the future of learning?
The big takeaway is actually pretty simple, but it's also really profound. Active creation is a much, much more powerful learning tool than passive consumption. Making something, whether it's a meme or an essay or a video, is just way more effective than just reading a textbook or listening to a lecture.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? In this age where pretty much all of us are content creators in some way, what if the key to learning isn't just buried in a textbook in the library, but it's sitting right there in our phone's camera roll, just waiting for us to add the perfect caption?